Hey, what's up, 1301? It's C-Rob. I wanted to go over some of the Rodriguez themes that are in Module 1. I went over some of these in my welcome video, but I'm going to go into more detail here. I might break this into two, or this might be a longer one. This is the third video I'm shooting today, so maybe I'm starting to calm down a little, put in some gum, I got some nice water, so I think I'm calming down a bit. This is closer to maybe what a normal lecture would be, but I wanted to go over the theme sheet in Module 1. A couple of you have asked the first few days, did you have to write about these? And you don't. It's not like your official assignment, but if you were in my face-to-face class, one day I would go over these themes and we would talk about them. I would ask you questions. I would tell stories, whatever. So hopefully this will be a little bit different than your welcome video, and it will stimulate some paper ideas. Number 1 says, what is a scholarship kid? It basically means you get financial aid, you're on scholarship. And when I was in school in the 80s, there was a difference between students who were on scholarship financial aid and ones that weren't. And you could maybe tell the difference because they'd be sucking up to the teacher. In the old days when there was blackboards, they'd stay and clean the board. They do everything the teacher said. But maybe in 2020, everyone's on financial aid. Everyone's a scholarship kid. But I would usually start early in my lectures asking what a scholarship was. Number 2 says mimicry versus living your life. Rodriguez admits that he was a complete mimic. Whatever the teacher said, he wrote it down. When there was a test, he would just spit it back to the teacher. He wasn't thinking on his own. He was just doing what the teacher said. And I wrote mimicry versus living your life. When I was in school, like all the textbooks I read said, go out, have fun, live your life. And I did that. If you were in class with me in real time, I think you would know that. And sometimes I worry about y'all because of the computer. You spend so much time, I have to get all A's. I have to get a better grade than the person on the left, person on the right. Sometimes I worry that students in 2020 aren't having fun. And I had fun, for real. Number 3 says, connect to lessons of Anzaldúa and Said, our other 2 readings. Rodriguez was writing in the 80s. I think I said in an announcement, picture him as a grandfather giving advice to his grandson if he had a job interview. Lose your accent, assimilate to America, act like the Americans. That's how you get the job. And you could compare him to what Gloria Anzaldúa, our 3rd reading. She's a strong woman. She's a feminist. She says Spanglish, Tex-Mex, cool, funky, brand new language. To heck with American culture. Be proud of who you are. And then Said is a Middle Eastern writer, and we talk a lot about the photos. But I think maybe there's a connection between the way Americans have traditionally treated Mexicans and how Israelis have traditionally treated Palestinians. And also, Anzaldúa's essays kind of scattered. Said's kind of scattered because there's bombs going off. But anyway, usually I would give the students in my face-to-face classes a little whiff of the connection between Anzaldúa, Said, and Rodriguez. And certainly Rodriguez and Anzaldúa are about assimilation. Rodriguez says, be like the Americans. Anzaldúa says, to heck with the Americans. Be proud of who you are. Strong Hispanic woman. 2 cultures for Rodriguez, American and Mexican. I assume most of you live in Southwest Texas, so you probably have a better idea of American culture in relation to Mexican culture. I grew up in Virginia. I lived in Ohio and Iowa. I've only lived here 2.5 years, so you have a better sense of that than I do. And then I would ask who you identify with. Maybe I would ask when you go home or when you go to your grandmother's house for Thanksgiving, if you're singing like American rap songs or rapping, you're wearing American clothes, you're speaking Spanglish, and you go to Chihuahua for Thanksgiving, is your grandmother not going to like that? Is your grandmother maybe going to think you're selling out to America? You should be more proud of your Hispanic heritage. So I would ask that question, get volunteers from the class to say what they thought about that. But it's interesting here. Iowa's nice. Iowa had fresh air. It was clean, but there wasn't like much of a culture. If you went to the grocery store, there might be tortillas and some picante sauce, but there wasn't really any flavor. So I would ask the students, are they conscious of Mexico and America coming together? It's flavorful, it's interesting, more so than Iowa. And the next question said, Rodriguez sell out his family, culture, Mexican heritage? Rodriguez is pretty honest with us, his readers. I think his mother was a seamstress. His dad was a janitor. And like if he wins an award at school, he doesn't want his parents to come. He's a little bit ashamed of his parents. Rodriguez very much wants to be like a typical American. So that's debatable. To some degree, I've only been here 2.5 years. A student in Iowa or Virginia or Ohio would say, yeah, he's a sellout. But sometimes students on the border understand what he's going through. Maybe there's an essay there. Number 6 says, did you come to college to reinvent yourself? That might work better for like a sorority girl in Ohio than it does here. But do you relate? When I would ask my face-to-face students, when you go home for Christmas, when you go home for the summer, do you hang out with your friends from high school that had babies, that work in the oil field, that play games all day, that do drugs all day? But did you come to college to make new friends, new connections, stuff like that? And is that part of like selling out to American culture? The easiest question, number 7, or easiest concept, you don't have to answer these. Rodriguez says a scholarship kid is a bad student. Why? Rodriguez is completely mimicking. He's not thinking for himself. He doesn't raise his hand and talk about like his family or what he thinks about anything. He just writes down what the teacher says. So he's mimicking. C-Rob is a hillbilly. I shot a video about that. But I certainly relate to Rodriguez, what he says about his family, his culture. Number 9, teacher is icon, new allegiances. Sometimes I have mothers in the class. Their son or their daughter's in 4th grade, and I'll say, is it okay if your daughter wants to be like her teacher? And the mother would say, yeah, that's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's part of growing up. I think I might cut this off now and start again book smarts versus street smarts to make 2 videos instead of 1. Okay.